It's time for the AD&D 2nd Edition Player's Handbook Rules Supplement, the Complete Fighter's Handbook. That's what this video is going to be about. I've really enjoyed doing these AD&D 2nd Edition videos. There's been tons of support for me doing them. It's like we're all in a little fellowship here. We all really enjoy this edition. It is the best edition of Dungeons & Dragons that's ever been made, or will ever be made. That's just all there is to it. This is an interesting one. It's one that's been very difficult to do a video on because I've done my meticulous go through everything, and I mess up along the way or something. So I'm going to let you know, though, the next AD&D 2nd Edition video is going to be on the fantastic Ravenloft box set, Realm of Terror, the very first box set for that awesome setting, and I look forward to making that one for you. So what I've decided to do, I'm not going to go through this one like I did the Ranger's Handbook. We're going to start right here, Combat Rules. Oh, by the way, it's only available in PDF on Drive-Thru-RPG, so that sucks. There's no print on demand, but I'll have a link if you don't have this and you want to pick up that PDF. Awesome Doug Chaffee piece of art right here. We got this great troll. If you see horns like that, you know you're probably looking at a Doug Chaffee piece of art, and it's fantastic. So really, when people think about this book, this is what they're going to think about, the combat rules, these new combat rules. And they're cool. They're good. They give you a lot of options. And that's another thing about this handbook. It's a lot of options. This is less so, in my opinion, like a deep dive into the fighter, giving you some incredible kits and stuff. And of course, they do have them, and I will be ranking them based off how awesome I think they are. And but really, this book is known for its combat rules. This was the first of the splat books for AD&D 2nd Edition and the handbooks. And of course, as they go on, they're going to kind of tweak some stuff here and there, and maybe, sure, they get overpowered. But there is some good stuff to be had in this. I will say that I think that all the kits are they're kind of underpowered, and I think that's by design. It's because of these combat rules that you can add to your game. And I'll be going through them. I'm not going to be going super in depth with them. I don't really think that there's super focus in this book as opposed to other handbooks. I could be wrong, but that's just my view of it. So really, I just want to get to these new combat rules right off the bat here. They've got some really great information in this book. So like offhand weapons use. You know, if you're using your other hand, you've got that rule for you. And that's what, like, kneeling and sitting. So like there's some, different type of situations you may find yourself in and how to come up with the rule for that, and I think that's very helpful. Rules here about range and initiative, how you can, if you've got like an arrow ready to shoot, you can just fire off before initiative's kind of done, so that's cool. And then we've got weapon proficiency slots. Obviously, a big thing about 2nd Edition D&D is the weapon proficiency slots and the specialization, so let's go ahead and hit it. So now this book is called the Complete Fighter's Handbook, but it really tries to incorporate the whole warrior group, which is going to be paladins and rangers. But I don't see them like that so much in this book. I see this as the fighter's handbook. Now, you can do a ranger and a kit, or a paladin and a kit. And they tell you about that. But I really just kind of focus on the fighter with this one. And there is a mistake. There's an error in this book. There's an optional rule that people thought was maybe an error, and there's an error. So the actual error is this. It says only single-class warriors, fighters, paladins, and rangers can take weapon specialties. That's not true. That's wrong. And it was said so in, I believe it's Dragon Magazine 173, fantastic Dark Sun cover. Skip Williams, who did the Sage Advice columns, said that this is wrong. It's only for fighters. So there does reference those other classes, such as the paladin and the rangers, getting weapon specialization, and that is not correct. The other thing it does is tell you that you can have multiple weapon specializations. Now, that is not the rule that's in the player's handbook. It is talked about here, and you need to consider that as an optional rule. And Skip Williams, he discusses that as well. It's an optional rule for this book if you would like to have multiple weapon specializations. But it's not an error the way that this is. So that's unfortunate. But this is cool. It kind of breaks down again about single weapon proficiency and weapon specialization and how strong that is. And then you've got this neat thing here that they did. They said, well, okay, if you want to be specialized in a group of weapons, here's the rule for that. So they've got tight groups and they've got broad groups. And tight groups is going to cost you 2 of your weapon proficiencies, and broad groups is going to cost you 3 of your weapon proficiencies. I think this is a smart system for people or players that might be kind of like, that's dumb. How is it that I'm really good at a composite longbow, but I'm not good at a composite shortbow? Or, you go over here like a longsword and a bastard sword. There's not a whole bunch of difference in them. And so you've got tight groups, and I think that's smart. These are good optional rules here. And then broad groups, they make it much bigger. You've got all the blades, cleaving, crushing weapons, pole weapons, small throwing weapons. And then there's even non-groups, such as weapons that do not belong to any group. And I just think it's neat. You can choose one of those, if the tight or the broad, and I think it works well for you. And for your group, it could be some cool options for you. And then there's some things right here. It tells you a little bit more about weapon specialization and weapon groups. If you've got ambidexterity, how that plays into it. And then you've got stuff, and it's going to break down some stuff such as like style specialization, punching and wrestling specialization, and martial arts. And then here we go with the fighting styles. So these are actually really, really strong. I love these. I think this is one of the best things. So if you want to be proficient at single weapon style, you have nothing in your hand, you're offhand, and you've got a weapon, there is a fighting style for you. If you want to be proficient in two-handed style, two-hander style as they call it, such as two-handed swords, pole arms, quarterstaff, and stuff like that, there's a style for you. Weapon and shield, or sword and board, as some people call it. And then two-weapon style, if you have a weapon in each hand. And then it's going to go and it's going to break down each one of those. And I think it's just really, really cool, because it's going to say to you like what the advantages are and what the disadvantages are. So single weapon style is very neat. You're going to be specialized in it. And you're going to get a bonus to your armor class with that single weapon style. I dig that. And then you've got, but I do like the two-handed style. A lot of people are going to enjoy that, mainly because the style specialization is going to make your weapon faster. Obviously, one of the turns to a two-handed weapon is going to be that it's slower, the speed factor. So it's going to give you a reduced speed factor by 3. So if it's a 10, you're going to have a 7. And I think that's cool. And I dig that a lot. And then it's got weapons and shield style. I'm going to tell you about the advantages of that is that you're going to be able to get pretty much a bonus shield rush maneuver that you're going to be able to do, where you're going to be able to pretty much smash somebody with your shield. So the disadvantages of weapon and shield style are going to be that you've got a shield in your left hand, and you can't really use it for much more than that. It's still pretty helpful. So I don't really see it too much of a negative. You get to do an extra attack only for the shield punch or parry maneuver. It's pretty helpful. I think this is a dynamite style, and one that I would definitely use. Two-weapon style is pretty cool. Obviously, it's going to offset a lot of those negatives when it comes to your offhanded weapons. And the disadvantages be, obviously, you're going to have a lower armor class, so that's not as great. But still, two weapons is pretty sweet. I like the sample style specialization right here. It's going to give you kind of an example of it, how it's going to look on your character sheet, help you out there. Then you've got these melee maneuvers, which are really good, really strong. Called shots, striking a specific body part, smashing something being held, or bypassing armor. A lot of negatives to trying to do those, but at least the options are there. And then you've got some special results that are really kind of wacky and cool. Carving your initials into someone, cutting buttons off, stapling, like throwing a dagger or something and stapling somebody to a piece of wood, hostage taking. So obviously a lot of those are kind of for like swashbuckling type of characters. And then you've got disarm, and then the difference of disarm versus certain types of weapons, such as a single-handed weapon, two-handed, or shields. Thrown weapons and missile disarms, expert disarms right here, very interesting. It says you're a very experienced fighter and are willing to suffer a serious penalty in order to impress your enemy. You can perform an expert disarm against single-handed weapons only. Pretty much you're able to direct where that weapon goes whenever you disarm somebody. Very neat. And now grab's a strong section here. How to grab someone, grabbing a person, grabbing a monster, holding attack. If you're not going to do an attack just right off the back, it's a non-attack maneuver. We all know about that, kind of holding your turn, your action, and it's very good. It says when it's time for him to announce his intention, he says, "I'm holding my maneuver." Combat proceeds to the next character. Then, once everyone has gone in the round, secondary attacks are being determined. The DM asks again if the character what he's going to do. He can take his action. If not, he's going to forfeit it. So it's just you're holding your attack. It's something we all kind of usually add to our games if it's not already there, and it's very helpful. So now we've got characters with multiple attacks, how to deal with that, and that has always been something that's very, with hold attack maneuvers. holding some or all of his attacks. I like the examples. That's really good. You've got parry here, parry rules, missile weapon parries. You can parry with a missile weapon that you're holding, maybe a bow or crossbow. So a lot of really, minute little things, situations that might come up. It's going to have the rule for it. Parrying from the DMG, it's going to tell you kind of the difference between that from the Dungeon Master's Guide. With the pin maneuver, you can pin somebody up against a wall or something so they can't move. There's rules for pull and trip, use of pole arms, sapping someone, that's always cool. Shield punches and shield rushes, strikes and thrusts, surprise and flashy maneuvers. I like this a lot. Don't say no, determine the difficulty. So it really tells you, hey, if the player wants to try to do something strange or daring in combat, don't say no. Try to come up with the difficulty for it. And say if it's maybe a 1 in 10 chance of being able to get that maneuver off or something like that. I think that's really nice. It's a good rule just in general. Let somebody try to do something. Just make it quite difficult based off how difficult it is. And then we've got punching, wrestling, and martial arts. A whole thing here about normal punching and punching specialization, normal wrestling attacks. These are all really strong section here. If you want those options in your game to make martial arts a little bit more special, or punching or kicking somebody, I dig it a lot. And all the bonuses you're going to get, how you can kind of change up the fantastic martial arts results table here. You can kind of change it up and down based off your specialization, on top of bonuses to hit and damage. And then it goes on. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff here. Called shots with wrestling, barehanded maneuvers, disarming, grabbing. Pretty much all the same stuff that you can do with weapons. It's got with your fists and kicks and stuff like that. All really, really good. And then it talks about hit locations. It says, there's no hit locations in this game. It goes against the philosophy of D&D. Now we've got some optional things here that you may or may not want to use. Numbed and useless numbers. Pretty much damage to certain body parts can go to a certain threshold and then numb the arm or leg. And what that's going to do for you. You're going to get a certain amount of stun points and make certain limbs become useless. It's a little bit more managing and keeping of records and stuff to say what exactly is going on. It does let you know how you're supposed to keep track of that. But I think it's cool. And there's here this specific effects of called shots. If you're going to hit somebody in the torso, the head, what might happen. Of course, this is really neat too. You roll a d6 and you could maybe blind them or deafen them. Maybe they're dizzy. Maybe they're blind and dizzy. Maybe they're blind and they're knocked down. What's going to happen with your arms and legs once they're numbed or useless? I think it's a neat section. It may not be for everybody's group. It's a little bit more. It says recording these injuries here, and then how you have to go about healing them. I think it's neat. It's a neat section. You need it. You want to have it in there. It may not be everything for your group, though, like I said. And then how to recover temporary damage. You've got how to record temporary damage and recovery from knockout. What happens with magic happens when you've got temporary damage. All very interesting situations that may come up. Then there's a lot of combat conditions here with darkness and blindness. So you've got melee. It says combat modifiers for darkness and blindness, melee, missile, and infravision bonuses here. And how they're going to help you or not help you in certain situations. Just more modifiers to help flesh out your game if you want that. They've got a simple way for infravision to work and a more complex way. So that's actually pretty cool. Rules for unstable ground if a monster does something, whether or not it requires a dexterity check. Then we've got this whole thing here on jousting. Very neat as well if you want that in your game. There's a bunch of stuff here about blunted jousting and lances, the competition, horseback archery, things like that. Again, kind of embracing that historical aspect of AD&D 2nd edition. I like this, when to end combat here. Characters that may not surrender, characters that give chase, when characters never negotiate. Some interesting role-playing game stuff here at the end of combat, which I really dig as well. And it's got some just other combat tactics and sequences that you may want to familiar yourself with, such as wolf pack tactics, tactical mix of combat, and then maybe rotation, having somebody go in and somebody go out. What are spear carriers doing in combat? A lot of really cool section here about just tactics in general. Could help you get the one up on that foe, and I dig it. And then we've got equipment, and here is another one of my major beefs here. And this is something I just stick with, okay? So it says right here, one-handed only. Now, when it comes to weapons and armor and stuff like that, I'm going to go to the Arms and Equipment Guide. It came out years after this one. And to me, it's got everything in there. It's it's what you need. It's your go-to. So anything here, you can use it, but I think that the Arms and Equipment Guide is over this. It has it's just the better option to look at when it comes to an older splat book. So right here, one-handed only, Footman's Mace. So you've got a Footman's Mace as a one-handed only weapon. And then if you look down here, you've got a one-handed but can be wielded two-handed, the Horseman's Mace. So the Footman's Mace, do your research on it, and it says it in the Arms and Equipment Guide, is a two-handed weapon. It should be down here, two-handed only. It's a really big mace for someone that was not on horseback, nothing else in their hand, and it's pretty much a big beat stick. A horseman is not going to be able to have such a long weapon on a horse. And the stats for that are going to reflect it. A horseman's mace is going to be a D6. The footman's mace is going to be a D8. And to me, this is incorrect. And it's corrected in the Arms and Equipment Guide. So that's one of my little pet peeves. I'm always looking for that and see exactly where they put it. And I do like here some new weapons and stuff. If you use them one-handed or two-handed, like a spear, which is always something that kind of comes up. What's the speed factor for that? It's going to stay the same, but the damage is going to be different versus small and medium versus large creatures. And what type, size, and type are they? So this is very helpful right here. I dig that a lot, though. And then you've got missile weapon ranges for some of these different type of weapons, because there are new weapons here, gladiator weapons, and you've got a new weapon list here for these new weapons, as well as there's some... I think they call them savage weapons. They're kind of old ones. You do have samurai and pirate weapons as well. So this is all really good information here that, again, will be reiterated in the Arms and Equipment Guide. Here's those savage weapons too, talking about stone and bone weapons, swashbuckler weapons too. All neat sections here. You've got new armor. Now here's an interesting thing here. This is a strong one as well. You've got new armors. So I'm going to tell you about those. A lot of those being samurai or gladiator type armors. It says effects of armor here, how it's going to do with your dex checks for a lot of the armors. Again, all this stuff is optional. Helmets, how they do with vision and hearing. Again, I think that's in the Arms and Equipment Guide as well. Going to tell you a lot about just everything about that when it comes to your helmet, vision and hearing checks, how they're going to affect you, effects on speed. Telling you the different types of helmets right there. Armor fitting, and maybe if you find some armor, what race for which the armor was built, and how kind of close they might be together between like a gnome and a half-elf or a halfling. And I think it's all really strong. It's got a high-quality racial armor here. So there is still some great stuff in this that's not in the Arms and Equipment Guide, such as piecemeal armor. If you find a piece like this and you find some chainmail, that and how they all come together. This is an intricate section that you need to kind of read to understand how it works when it comes to... trying to piecemeal together your armor. It's just a neat option. I'm not sure it's something that I would really put into my game unless I just said, hey, I've got it, let's give it a shot. You're only going to find this one piece. And so here's something I want to also show to you here is some good sections and some kind of weird stuff you need to look at. So damage to armor is an optional rule, and pretty much it's very easy. You've got DP, which is going to be damage points. And so let's look at, we got leather and padded. It's got 20 DP. Every time it takes a hit, it takes 1 point of damage. And that's how you're going to know how you're going to be able to repair it. It's fairly easy, simple system to use. I would recommend this. I don't think it's that much bookkeeping. You just kind of do a little tally beside your armor or wherever, scratch a piece of paper, and you keep up with how much damage is done. So each point of damage, if it takes 1 damage per blow, so that's not per damage, it's if you take a hit, if it hits for 10 points of damage, the armor only takes 1 DP. So I think it's a smart, easy system to do. The one thing I will let you know here is that I think this is incorrect as well. All this is under barding. This should all be indented as well, all the way up to leather and padded. This should all be indented. This is all, I believe, barding armor classes and listings here. As they start talking about halves, like when you don't have barding that's only taken up half of, it's not exactly covering the animal all the way. It's half of that, obviously. So I believe these should all be indented. And these armor classes here for the bardings, this is just a little technical weird stuff in my research for this. These do not really 100% sync up with the Arms and Equipment Guide. The Arms and Equipment Guide does something completely different. Again, I would tell you to use towards that so it makes sense. This does make sense, but has been clarified and streamlined, I believe, and more in depth with the Arms and Equipment Guide. So I wouldn't use these right here. I would go to that book. But I would use the damage points if you're going to use that system that's in there. Then you got magical items. There's not a whole bunch of magical items in here. They're all pretty cool, and obviously based on the fighter, and I'm glad that they're there. And then at the very end, we've got some cool tables. I'm going to go back to the beginning here to go through the kits and stuff. We've got our tables for a lot of the stuff that we've seen here, the armor fitting, the one-handed and two-handed weapons, the piecemeal armor, and this just shows you bonus to armor class per type of piece. So it's going to pretty much, if you have 2 arms and maybe 2 legs, what's the armor class of that going to be? So it's going to be, you're going to have only 3 of those, 3 of that armor class. So, and then here's what a full suit would be. So like for banded mail, you've got the breastplate's going to give you 3, 2 arms is going to give you 2, 1 arm is going to give you 1, and 2 legs is going to give you 1. So it doesn't, if you total it up, it doesn't exactly meet up to it, but once they're all together, it's going to give you that armor class bonus to armor class is going to be with your full suit right there. So just so it makes sense, I'll do leather armor. Leather armor is an armor class of 8, okay? So you can see here, it's a bonus to armor class of 2, taking you from a 10 to an 8. So don't think of that, oh, it's got it wrong. Leather armor is an 8 armor class. It's not a 2. Well, that's how that works. And that's where you have some discrepancy between the actual player's handbook and the Arms and Equipment Guide. So there's a bunch of my technical jargon, blah, 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 blah about that. Again, about our new weapons there. And then we've got the Complete Fighter's character sheet right here, both pages. And then you've got the fighter's combat sheet right here, talking about letting you keep track of numbed and useless numbers, as well as the modifiers to those. The different things like if called shot would be -4. And here's a complete fighter's combat sheet for the DM, so they can keep track of everything of what their players are doing. And if you want to create your own warrior kit, here's a creation sheet for that. You're creating it, it's going to have that laid out for you. So that brings us back to the beginning of the book, in which we're going to talk about these warrior kits right here. So I'm going to say that just in general, because you've got all those combat options, I feel that their mentality when making this was that the kits are not super front-loaded with a lot of great abilities, because you've got all those cool combat rules at your disposal. So I feel a lot of them, their hindrances are going to be, a lot of them are based off like minus reaction modifiers to whenever you meet somebody. And they don't have a whole bunch of superpowers, super bonuses, and stuff like that. But we're going to start off with the Amazon, and I'm going to rate this, of course. This is me rating kits based off how much I would want to play them, how excited I am to play them. I'm going to give this one a 3. I do like playing female characters, and Amazon would definitely be one I would play. And there are women warriors in a male-dominated world. And I think we know a lot about them already. You know, they've longbow, spear, longsword. We just kind of have already a general sense of how they work. They're very good. They get bonus proficiencies with riding land-based and animal training, so that's cool. Their special benefit is very interesting, in which if a male who's not familiar with her personally, or female warriors in general, her first hit to hit him is a +3 to hit and +3 to damage on her first blow. It has to hit, but it's kind of like, hey, you underestimate me, well, now my sword's sticking in you. So how do you like that? And it's interesting, and of course they have a negative when it comes to reactions. Their special hindrances is going to be, obviously male-dominated societies. They might not expect much from them, but it's interesting. It's just one that you're not going to use a whole bunch, I don't feel. And a monster's definitely not going to care about that. But this is definitely, a lot of these are going to be role-playing based warrior kits with some bonuses, a lot of those being in the weapon proficiencies and the non-weapon proficiencies, what they're going to give you, and then how you role-play them. So, yeah, Amazon gets a 3. Barbarian's going to get a 5. Now, I would obviously use the Barbarian Handbook instead of this kit, but if this is all you've got, it's 1989, this is all you got, this is still a really cool class. The non-weapon proficiencies, you're going to get a bonus in endurance. And it's just, we know how to play them. We know the feel of them. A great, role-playing class overall. And their benefit is really interesting. Their benefit and their hindrances is really interesting. It has to do with their charisma. And so with their benefit is if they roll really well for their reaction adjustment bonus, they get a bonus to it. And if they roll really bad, it gets worse. So it's kind of an interesting thing in which they can be charismatically perfect in certain situations and then really screw themselves over when they roll real bad. And there's some examples right there which I think are cool. Obviously, they're not going to get a whole they're going to get starting money, but you have to pretty much spend most of it, except for 3 gold pieces or less. It's kind of one of those poor kits, which I dig. And That's a fun one. So yeah, it's going to get a 5. And then the Beast Rider is going to get a 4. And you come from a warrior, you're a warrior in a tribe or clan which has a strong affinity for one type of animal. You know, it could be the goat clan or something like that, like huge mountain goats that they ride on, or camels or horses. They give you some optional, kind of more strange, abstract ones. You will get some bonuses with obviously non-weapon proficiencies, with animal training and riding land-based. And sometimes with the non-weapon proficiencies for these kits, you'll get to dive into one of the other groups, like the rogue group, but it won't cost you as many of your slots for non-weapon proficiencies as it normally would. So you're a little bit easier to get those non-weapon proficiencies, and I dig that. I think it's really cool as well. But you're gonna get some bonuses when you're on your mount. Your hindrances, of course, will be -3 negative reaction when meeting someone from a culture that's not his own. So that's gonna be tough. And then if your beast dies, you're gonna take 2d6 points of damage. I mean, that could just straight up murder you. So if you fail it, it's like you've been hit. There's a saving throw you have to make versus spell. If you fail it, you're going to get hit with pretty much a feeble mind spell is going to hit you for 2d6 hours. So you're just kind of shocked that you've lost your beloved beast. So I do give them a 4. I think they're really cool. I think you have a lot of fun with them. They do have a little bit more kind of with their bonuses, what they have with their animal. They almost have like a telepathic link to them. So they get a 4. The Berserker is going to get a 3. And I've never been a big fan of the Berserkers. Pretty normal, though, in what we think about them. They're going to have their Berserker Rage. It's going to give them bonuses. One of the benefits is cool is that they get a +3 reaction adjustment bonus from NPCs belonging to any tribe that also has Berserkers. They're like, oh, you're a Berserker? Ooh, okay, he's pretty cool. I like you. And then, of course, their raging could, of course, be a negative, too, once people see them so hardcore, raging at everything. Their hindrances are going to be -3 reaction from people who do not have Berserkers, of course. And then they could also, of course, die from their temporary hit points they're going to get. I'm thinking that they're going to continue going. It does tell you an interesting thing where the DM kind of is going to keep those points secretly, like held back, so they don't know exactly how many hit points they have as they're raging, and then all of a sudden, boom, they could be dead. I think that's cool. They can't use ranged weapons when they go berserk. I like how they call it berserk instead of raged. And they must fight each opponent until that opponent is down. And they're going to keep moving on to the next. He can't, for instance, choose to attack the enemy leader if the leader is behind 7 ranks of spearmen. He has to keep fighting until he can get to him. So you can see there's a lot of different negatives to them. They can never take cover. You can try to, he has to roll versus intelligence whenever something's trying to maybe try to pay attention to something or interpret some sort of attack. So he's got that, unfortunately, going for him. He's temporarily unaffected by clerical spells such as Bless, Cure Light Wounds. AD can't be healed in the middle of combat. Just very interesting overall. But I do give it a 3. It's not one that's exactly right up my alley. It says the taunt spell is automatically successful against them. They're just going to rage and kill. So here is the Cavalier, the ultimate mounted warrior of civilized cultures, and I dig it a lot. They get riding and etiquette as bonus non-weapon proficiencies. They also are going to be required to get lance and any sword. Very chivalrous, of course. They have some interesting benefits. They do get bonuses to some attacks with their weapons, so that's actually really cool. They get saving throw bonuses versus some magical spells. That's always very helpful. And they get a starting horse, which they don't have to pay for. That's also very good. It says they get a +3 reaction from anyone of his own culture because they know about him. And, of course, those of evil alignment, he gets a -3. And they have the right to demand shelter as well, which I think is neat. But their hindrances, they can't attack in ranged combat, of course. They have to take on the biggest and baddest person that's against them, and they must spin and get the most high-quality armor. So I don't think those are terrible hindrances when it comes to playing such a chivalrous knight. So I dig it, even though it's just not really my style. I give it a 3. But it's interesting. It's a cool role-playing, easy to role-play character, which I like a lot. The Gladiator is going to get a 5, just because of my love of Conan the Barbarian. We kind of know how these guys are. They get a free weapon specialization, which is really, really good. And they've got a lot of neat new weapons that they can use as gladiators. Their negative downside is that some people might try to use them, something maybe from their past. People might try to promote them for something, maybe blackmail the character, kidnap his followers. there's a whole bunch of different stuff role-playing wise, which again, I'm always a fan of those. So don't think of them as just, if it's got to have a negative to something to make it really something bad against the character. As a DM, you need to put that into your game to make the gladiators pass and what he or she does, come to fruition in the game. So I dig Gladiator. Gets a 5. The Myrmidon is going to be a ultimate soldier. I'm going to give this one, it's cool, but for me, I'm going to probably give it a 2. It's just not one that I would pick. They're the ultimate soldier. They're all about the military and the army, and they've got some cool stuff going for them. They've got bonus proficiency of ancient history, fire building, so that's pretty cool. Then a lot of what the classes are going to be is going to be based off what non-weapon proficiencies they recommend you get, obviously to bring them to the forefront. They do get a free weapon specialization, which is very nice. It has to be chosen between certain amounts of weapons. They usually can get some sort of benefit from their employer, so that's kind of neat as well. And they maybe don't have to spend money for room and board. They're kind of like an upper class of existence there. And they're immune to prosecution by the civil authorities because if they're in a standing army. So that could come into play in a role-playing game, a setting or something that might happen in your game. But people instantly recognize them, and it may be something that kind of goes against you because they know that you're a military person, may not trust you or be working against you. So yeah, they get a 2. They're probably a 3, honestly, but when it comes to this book and these kits, I'm going to give it a 2. And then the Noble Warrior. It's someone of nobility. They're out there. They're fighting. We've seen this a lot in a lot of different media. The hero that is maybe a poor, not so super well-known noble who's out there trying to be heroic, trying to be charismatic, trying to help the people. And I dig that one. I'm going to probably give this one a 3, and I would play this one over the Myrmidon any day. So it says here that the Noble Warrior receives +3 reaction from anyone from his own culture, of course. He can demand shelter from people. Of course, they do that a lot, where it's like, hey, you've got to give me shelter. I am who I am. And they get a lot of cool bonus proficiencies as well. Etiquette, heraldry, writing land-based. So that's strong. And yeah, I dig it. I think it's interesting that their special hindrances are like nobility could call on you. So nobles that are of higher rank, higher status than them, those people have to take him in. But the same thing's going to happen to them. Is that one of their hindrances is that if someone of nobility shows up, that they have to take them in and try to help them out, give them some place to stay and feed them. I think that's really interesting as well. But they also have to spend a lot of money, and they're expected to live well. If they don't live to a higher status, then they get these negative to reaction rolls. They're pretty much a joke. Look how he's eating. Look how he's dressing. He looks like trash. I don't have a lot of respect for him because of that, and it's going to continuously get worse and worse. So again, I give him a 3. Not bad. Definitely one I would play. The Peasant Hero is going to be local boy done good, the hometown warrior who fights and adventures to the light of the people of his home area. I'm going to also give this one. I'm going to give it a 3. This is a Luke Skywalker type kit. A lot of people know this character in their area. Going to give them shelter, of course. Going to give them aid, however they may need. He may not have to pay for food and drink. It's an interesting, not a very big character warrior kit here. But then again, some of the hindrances that he may be called on by his village to do stuff. People are expecting a lot from him, and if he doesn't take care of it, they're going to think poorly of him. I give it a 3. It's an easy kit to role play, and overall, it's fine. And then you got the Pirate Outlaw here. You've got pirate stuff and outlaw stuff. A lot of this is going to be very much obviously the same. Pirates are obviously very cool, and they're going to get different non-weapon proficiencies based off which one they are, a pirate or an outlaw. And of course, you're going to have access to those pirate weapons, which are needed as well. And there's not too many hindrances to them. Really, it's just going to be the law trying to get them. You're always going to be looking out for law. I'm going to give the Pirate Outlaw a 3 as well. It's probably not one that I would pick over some of these other kits, but I know for some people it probably definitely goes up there much higher. But They're fine. They're cool. Just definitely not one that I would probably go to right off the bat. Samurai is obviously going to be for certain. I'm gonna give it a 5. I'm not gonna. I love feudal Japan and stuff like that. It's going to be obviously only for certain type of settings. They get weapon proficiencies. They get bonus free ones, but they have to be based on certain, obviously, samurai-based weapons. That's still cool. You're going to get your last weapon proficiency can be on something else, but your other ones have got to be on the katana and the daiku, I think it's called. And that's the great bow, the samurai great bow. And so your weapons, you're going to be kind of chosen for you, but that makes sense. And your bonus proficiency is going to be etiquette. They're cool. They're going to have a lot of esteem. You can also be a Ronin. So they've got that going for it. And overall, I think it's a neat class. The hindrances, of course, is that your lord may call upon you. And now we have the Savage Kit. I'm actually going to give this one, I really debated between a 4 and a 5. I really dig this. I'm going to give it a 5. What the hell? Savage is actually really neat. They come from, they're tribesmen or culture that's far more primitive than the Barbarian or Berserker. Reminds me of the movie Conquest, which I love. It has a very much a savage type of warriors in it. I dig that a lot. They're all about survival. So they get a good non-weapon proficiencies. Bonuses are going to be direction sense, weather sense, endurance, and survival. It's really part of what their special benefits is all about. And I really dig it. I just think it's really neat to play a character that's really savage, doesn't understand a lot of things. And they've got some cool stuff too. On top of the non-weapon proficiencies, they get kind of like an innate spell ability, and they're going to choose from this list here. They're going to get either alarm, where they can wake up kind of in the middle of the night and know that there's some sort of danger by them. Maybe they can detect magic, animal friendship. They can detect evil, and I just think it's kind of a neat, kind of like baked in spell-like ability that they have. So I dig. Obviously, they're not going to be known too much about society, but they have this thing that's actually really bad. If they wear normal clothing or they wear armor, they get these negatives to a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to like their attacks and damage, non-weapon proficiency rolls. So they do not like being in armor at all. And it's going to affect them negatively, and it's going to get progressively worse. So it's just a really cool hindrance to try to overcome that and look for other ways to enhance your armor class. But just as a role-playing stance and their abilities that they have and all those great non-weapon proficiencies they're going to get, I just really dig it. I'm going to give it a 5. I'll be bold and say that. And you got the Swashbuckler if you want to play like Three Musketeers. I'm going to give this one probably a 3. It's going to be only probably for certain type of campaigns. I think we know exactly what they're all about with their with swashbuckling, doing a lot of real extravagant type of actions and things like that. They're going to get etiquette and tumbling, which is pretty neat. They get that from the rogue group, and they get some cool benefits. It says that they don't have to devote double the normal number of slots when it comes to choosing rogue proficiency. So that's really helpful. And it says second, when he's wearing light or no armor, he receives -2 bonus to armor class. That's actually really helpful. And then he's a romantic figure, so he's going to get +2 adjustment on his reaction roll from NPC members of the opposite sex. So I dig that. I think that's really neat. I give it a 3 only because it's very circumstantial whether or not they'll be in your setting. I mean, it's kind of like the samurai, but I'm pretty biased about them just because they're so awesome. But Trouble seeks out the swashbuckler, and I really like this one a lot. Things are going to happen to him. It says like, whenever someone is being like a young lady is being pursued by the king's guards, who is intent on stopping her from revealing secrets in her possession, it's the swashbuckler she stumbles across when fleeing. Or when a prince is too drunk to attend his own coronation, miraculously he looks just like the swashbuckler. Really cool role-playing game opportunities there, and just fun. So yeah, gets the 3. And then Wilderness Warrior. So they're specialized in a certain type of environment. Maybe it's the desert, maybe it's the swamp, maybe it's the frozen north or the jungle. So very specialized in that thing. I'm going to give this one a 4 just because I think that's really, really cool, especially if you're using a setting that's a little outside of the normal Western Europe kind of vibe to it. They're going to be obviously really good in their native environment when it comes to non-weapon proficiencies. I dig that a lot. They get a special bonus of +5 to the survival proficiency roll. That's really, really great, obviously, when they're in their own environment. And when they're not, their hindrance is that they're going to be obviously very unfamiliar with the player character society that's outside of theirs. And it's a big role-playing thing as well. It says a DM must occasionally enforce it until he believes the character is sufficiently familiar with the usual culture that's around. So again, another strong role playing game aspect of it right there. But I dig it. I think it's a cool kit that I would definitely play. Then you're going to have all your normal stuff about, leaving kits, abandoning kits, what to do with multi-class characters and dual-class characters, how those work, modifying them, all well and good. Now, here's a really cool section to wrap this up. This is the role-playing section. Now, I don't think that there's anything extremely, extravagant about this section, but it's actually really neat, these warrior personalities here, because it's going to break down different types of warriors, going to give you a description, what type kits they're best suited for, how they do in combat situations, and how they do in role-playing situations. So you've got the brash youth, and it's going to tell you about that, or the crude crusher, which we all kind of know about that, rude, boisterous, belching, physical sort of character. And so on. So the dangerous antagonist and the doomed champion. These are actually really neat for two people. Really, people that are starting out role-playing. This is really a great introduction to how they want to role-play their character. Because I think a lot of people, when they're playing a role-playing game and they're new to it, they have a hurdle in creating a character that's quite different from them. And or give them something that actually is a goal when it comes to their thought process, their mood, their emotions. And I think this is a really great section that at first I was kind of what is this all about? I don't think I need that, but I think this is really helpful. The second people are people that have played fighters a bunch. They've played a lot of role-playing games, and they look through this and say, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself, and I'm going to be the natural leader personality or the fated philosopher. It's more options for someone who's a veteran of the game. These personalities are actually going to be very, very cool to delve into them and try them out and kind of test yourself and see if you're able to kind of bring that type of character to life in the game. I think it's a really great section, one that it was one that I didn't think was going to be as good as it turned out to be. And then it's going to tell you about the warrior campaign, different types of campaigns, maybe a magical world or mostly non-magical, kind of telling you how warriors are going to be within these different type of places. Maybe one warrior type, there's only one type of warrior that everybody is. The mixed warrior type campaign. So while I don't think this section is as strong, it's still interesting to read and see how they kind of fit into these different worlds, like gladiators or beast riders. I do like the barbarians and berserkers, how that type of campaign setting would be. But these are strong sections, I think, for the DM and for players to kind of read, get ideas about how to run their character. So I think that's exactly what it's trying to do, and it does a good job with that. It tells you about campaigns and miniseries, the difference between them and switching between them. It's good stuff, and again, much better than I thought it was actually going to be, and I think actually quite useful. New player, tell them, hey, look through these warrior personalities. If you're having a problem, not just having a straight vanilla type of character that has no personality, take a look at these, get an idea for what type character you'd like to play as. So it's pretty good. So there it is. There's much more to it. Obviously, I kind of even though this video is long, once again, something I didn't want to hopefully happen. There's almost no way to not make them long. There's so much to cover in these books because they're very thorough in what they do, and a lot to talk about. It's unfortunate about some of the errors that's in the error that's in it when it comes to paladins and rangers not being able to have weapon specialization, and then of course the optional rule of having multiple weapon specializations. That's going to be up to you and your table, but it's a good first book they put out. I think they only got better when it comes to kind of what their focus was. Obviously, this is known for its combat rules, but I do enjoy the later handbooks where they show you like a piece of art for each one of the kits, just thematically and just to get into the mood to show you what it's like. I dig that a lot, but still, I think it's a clutch handbook to have. Should be in everybody's collection if you have, if you're a collector of AD&D Second Edition, to really give you those new combat options. And then if something happens, you say, "Oh, well, they're sitting down at a table. How do I do this? How do I do combat like that?" Or this comes up, or someone complains, "Hey, how come I have to specialize? I can't specialize in, I want to specialize in multiple weapons." Where you've got that here, or if you want to be proficient in a whole group of different type of weapons instead of just certain ones. So there it is. The kits are not super powerful. I don't feel they're gonna kind of tweak that later on down the road. But there's still some fun ones in there. I would definitely try some of them. But overall, I think it's a good game. A good book for a fantastic game, and I highly recommend that everybody have the complete Fighter's Handbook. in their collection. So there it is. Thanks a lot, and stay tuned for that next video.